Bread. A staple so common, we hardly stop to think about it. It's there on every table, every grocery store shelf, in every culture. But what if I told you there was a time when bread wasn't just food, it was survival, power, and even a weapon? A time when people didn't just fight over bread, they killed for it. For thousands of years, bread was the foundation of civilization itself. The moment humans figured out how to turn grains into flour, societies began to rise. It fed armies, sustained empires, and became a symbol of life itself. But in the hands of rulers, bread became something much darker. In ancient Egypt, bread was currency. Workers who built the pyramids were paid in loaves. Without it, they starved. And if someone dared to steal or hoard bread during times of scarcity, the punishment was brutal, sometimes even death. Bread wasn't just sustenance, it was control. Fast forward to medieval Europe, where the cost of bread determined life or death for entire populations. The peasants, who toiled endlessly, barely had enough to eat while the wealthy dined on fine, white loaves. If famine struck or grain supplies ran low, riots erupted. Markets were looted, and bakeries were burned. During the French Revolution, the price of bread was so high, it became a spark that fueled the entire uprising. "Let them eat cake" wasn't just an insult, it was a death sentence to those who couldn't afford even the most basic loaf. But it wasn't just about money. Bread became a symbol of religious and political power. Kings and priests controlled its production, deciding who could eat and who would starve. To control bread was to control people. And when that control slipped, revolutions were born. People killed for bread not because they wanted more, they killed because without it, they had nothing. And then there's the darker side, bread as a weapon. In the Middle Ages, grain silos were poisoned to starve out enemies during sieges. Crops were burned, fields destroyed, all to ensure that no one would have bread to eat. Famine wasn't an accident, it was a strategy. Today, bread is everywhere, cheap and abundant. But back then? It was a lifeline. A reason to fight. A reason to die. It's easy to forget, but bread carries the weight of history, of struggle, of power. And in its own way, it shaped the world we live in. So, the next time you tear into a crusty loaf, remember this: bread wasn't always just food. It was war. It was revolution. It was survival.